What is the kindest thing you've done or seen? I broke my foot while bouldering a week into my semester abroad. I had never been out of the country before, so I was absolutely panicking. A total stranger came right over after I fell, recorded important info for the paramedics, and spent the next 10 or so minutes while waiting for the ambulance asking me questions about my studies and my research. I'd mentioned I was a student. He asked such thoughtful questions and was so kind and able to calm me down even though I was absolutely freaking out. Background: my family and I were homeless when I was about to turn 13. My youngest brother is severely autistic. We were standing in line for lunch at the local soup kitchen, which opened at 11 a.m. We had arrived at 6 in the morning and were decently close to the door, only about 20 other people in front of us. My father had just returned from taking my youngest brother for yet another walk around the block, as he had begun fighting and stimming and biting himself in frustration. After another few minutes in line, it was clear that he had more than reached his tiny 9-year-old limit and had begun to lose it. There was a couple of guys who were dressed in ratty t-shirts, jean vests covered in patches, and plenty of veteran memorabilia, mostly from Vietnam. Think those little ribbons, or the POWMIA patches. Each of them had either an old, dirty backpack or a trash bag, which held all of their personal belongings in the world. One of the men, in a wheelchair and missing a leg, seeing my little brother's frustration and hearing my mother explain yet again that he had severe autism, rolled up to the 5 of us, 2 parents and 3 young kids, all sunburnt from the Florida sun with no place to call home, and unhooked his one treasured possession. He had a little stuffed monkey that was hooked onto his steering portion of the wheelchair. It was the only clean thing about the man, or really anyone else in line. It had a little vest like his, a tiny jean jacket with a small POW patch on its back. He gave it to my little brother, and my little brother immediately hugged it and cuddled with it, calming down. I'll never forget his words. He looks like he could use it more than me. It was his one and only real, treasured possession, and he gave it to the little boy that was crying. Now, I'm in a position to give back. And I do whenever I can. If I have the opportunity, I help those who need it. But I don't think I could ever repay that single gesture, so I just try to live my life the best way I possibly can. I was 16, driving over to my girlfriend's house on rainy Saturday afternoon. There was a man biking in front of me, and when he went to get onto the sidewalk, he completely ate shit. I pulled into the closest driveway and saw that his bike was mangled and his arm was bleeding. I threw his bike in my trunk, gave him my old sweatshirt for his bloody arm, and drove him home. When I dropped him off, he gave me his card. Turned out he was a dentist at a local research hospital. Well, fast forward to when I'm 19, and the same man took out my wisdom teeth for free as part of a research experiment. Not sure if there was actually an experiment that they needed wisdom teeth for, but just goes to show that good things happen to good people. My dad ran into an old high school friend he hadn't seen in years. He learned that the man had cancer, that he had no family except a son in college in another state, and that he was basically dealing with it all by himself. So my dad started taking him to his appointments and out to lunch. He even organized how to take his crazy number of prescriptions, since it was confusing to figure out when to take them when they all had different times and requirements. There were about 18 of them, I think he said. Then, when his friend died, my dad helped his son do all of the end-of-life arrangements. My dad is my hero. He is such a giving person, and I strive to be like him. An older gentleman tried to ship an envelope to his grandson from a shipping company I worked at. The way he acted and the things he said threw up too many red flags in my head, So, against company policy, I opened the envelope after he left, and inside of it was 5 figures in cash. I called the cops and told them to get in touch with the man and try to figure out what was going on. As it turns out, someone had called the older man and said his grandson was in the hospital, and if they didn't send the money he would get a surgery that was badly needed. The older man couldn't get in touch with the grandson by phone, so he panicked and sent the money to the address they provided. We were able to stop it from happening and get the money back to him. He said it was basically his life savings. The story kind of got big, and the news ran a story on it, and apparently it's a scam that happens to a lot of old people. We started this kind of club to reach out to nursing homes and try and educate people about it, and a lot of people were not aware of anything like that happening. A lot of good came from me just being nosy.